Welcome to a time of holy human stuff. My name is Heather Murray Elkins, and I have a question. What does the image of God look like? It says in the Gospel of John that when we are born, we carry the image of God. We are made in the image of God, or in Latin, Imago Dei. But what does that look like? What might that, in fact, appear to be if you were going to paint a picture of Imago Dei? I invite you now into that kind of vision of Imago Dei, and it was painted by one of our alum who was an artist when he came, Richard Romero, and he brought into theological education a depth of the vision of an artist that knew how to draw out and in fact present Imago Dei. And that is the title of this painting. So I invite you into this image. And I invite you to begin at the very beginning, at the very top, almost like the book of Genesis, where in fact the heavens open, or the Gospel of Mark, where the dove is descending. And the dove, symbolizing the Holy Spirit, has been released into the world with the hands of the one who made this world. And Richard, in his time at Drew, widened his vision so that when he painted these hands, he painted the hands of a woman. And the releasing of the dove, that symbolizes that ministry of baptism. Those of us who are baptized Imago Christi, to be able to show to the world what Imago Dei looks like. This begins at the beginning of not only creation but the gospel. And so the Holy Spirit descends, and as you look at figure after figure of this picture, you will see one small flame, that light from the holy gift of the Spirit. And each of these figures represented actual students here at Drew when Richard did his painting. And in the painting, they're busy about that work of making the Imago Dei visible. And yet they seem almost unaware of the light that they themselves carry and can be seen by the world. So we move from this pouring, this outpouring, into the work of the sacrament of word and table, where the bread of life and the words of life are being offered, the cup of new creation. And that student, that now pastor, is pouring out that holiness through those tangible gifts. If you move here, you then see the work of preaching and the work of prayer. And what I particularly love about this figure of the work of prayer is that that student was not only praying with the help of the Holy Spirit, she had conceived, and she and her husband were getting ready to receive a child. So you have this magnificent vision of what it means to be filled with the life of God. Here, a poignant, powerful picture. It is a woman carrying a figure, someone who has been very ill, or perhaps is in fact suffering from hunger or cancer. They are almost helpless. And she, in her strength, is carrying this figure. And it's a revisioning of the Good Samaritan, if you could see it that way. But there's a mystery also hidden in this painting. Right here, do you see the apple? This is a tradition from medieval paintings, particularly the Baroque period, where when you wanted to signify to the viewer that the figure that they were looking at was in fact Christ, they would paint that figure holding an apple. For them, it meant Jesus accepting humanity, Christ accepting oneness, and that gift of being with us in the flesh, in the body, signified by the apple. So while it looks as if she is carrying one who needs help, the double mystery is it is Christ who is carrying her. that acceptance of our humanity, that lifting us up for redemption. So when we do this kind of ministry, we are in fact being carried by the hidden Christ. Coming lower into this painting, the young man who has been in prayer, who has been obviously interrupted by the call of the Spirit to now rise from the work of prayer and go into the world, so that prayer becomes action, so that, as they often advise those of us who are seeking an answer in prayer, never ask God to do what it is your capacity to do. Never ask God to do what you should be doing. This young man has prayed and has now been summoned to go out and do Imago Dei in the world. Coming lower into the picture, a young man who has been recording either this scene or perhaps something that he has been studying. Will come back to him. And here, a seminarian who is studying, clearly, very hard at work, who is suddenly, unexpectedly interrupted by another seminarian who is performing that act of service that Christ himself offered his friends, the washing of the feet. So again, study, service. This is the work of those who are called to be Imago Christi for a world, Imago Dei. If we rise to this side, we see a young man holding a sign and a bullhorn. A very important reminder that it is important to raise our voices, silent no more. We speak out. We must speak out. And when I see that reminder, I think of those incredible young people and some of the adults who are joining them, breaking the silence about what it means to live in a country where guns are valued more than life. And the question is, which will we be most loyal to? The Second Amendment or the Fourth Commandment? It's an important question, silent no more. If you go a little higher, you see a man looking directly at you. And who is he? He's the artist. That again is a tradition. To be able to enable one to enter the picture through his eyes and his hands, what he has done, we can see. And so he only looks to us, hoping we will see this vision. If you move to the center of the painting, there's teaching going on. This is a teacher. This is a young woman, a single mother, and she is teaching her child. Now, I know her name, Amaryllis, and I know the child's name, Nathan. And I know what she's teaching him. And if you look at her hand, you can see she's teaching him the mystery of the Trinity, the irreducible diversity of God in community, the three in one and the one in three. And she's teaching this child that this is the necessity of what it means to be made Imago Dei and baptized into Imago Christi. A teacher at the center. And because of the history of these three figures, Richard met Amaryllis, and they married, found each other in seminary, and so he becomes the father of this child and the husband of this woman, this teacher in the midst of this painting. Imago Dei. I invite you also a little higher to a woman who is absolutely making a witness. This is the position called orans. It is a position of praise. And this particular student was famous for her ability to raise her voice in praise whenever she heard what she thought was the truth that sets us free. And her name was Eileen. And when she did this, there was a sound that always accompanied it. she would lift her hands and say, "Woohoo!" And that, for her and for us, was a sound of celebration, the hearing of the gospel that sets us free. Human beings, born Imago Dei, demonstrating Imago Christi, the image of Christ. But it's not just on behalf of humans. Please pay attention to this creature, this squirrel, this shared tenant of our life in the forest. And I would like to read what Richard wrote about why there is a squirrel in the picture. This is what he wrote. I had never seen so many squirrels in my life when I came to Drew. There were squirrels everywhere, playing, running, climbing, jumping, seeking food, shelter. And as I walked the paths of campus, reflecting on the Trinity and the realm of God, looking for Imago Dei, a thought suddenly hit me. What do squirrels see when they see us? Surely they don't say to themselves, "Oh, look, there goes another seminarian, ready to write a research paper on the image of God." No, they don't say that to themselves, because the best they can do is to project onto us what they themselves experience and know. I imagine what they're thinking is, "Oh, look, there goes one of those big, noisy humans walking around." Maybe they don't call us humans, maybe it's animals, walking around looking for food and seeking shelter just like we do. And this one vision of humor and humility enabled Richard to complete the painting with this understanding that he believed, in the end, what squirrels understand about us, that much is what we understand about God. That glimpse of Imago Dei, from the perspective of a four-legged creature, gives us both the humor and the humility to be able to say, this is the work of God, and we give thanks.